Chris, Athlon Sports Big 10 Bowl projections for 2023. I want to kind of take a look at this here. I want to get your thoughts. First up, we've got, this is Athlon Sports. This is us reacting to it, obviously, here, but the Orange Bowl. Let's go back up here. The Rose Bowl. They're predicting Michigan is going to take on Alabama in that game. Chris, what do you think?
Disappointed to see Alabama that high. But no. I think Michigan overall is going to be great this year, Christian, right? I'll touch on this real quick. With Michigan, I think they're winning the Big Ten. That'll proceed into another segment I think we got today. But can Bama get there? Yeah. Rose Bowl, though, no. Bama's not going to be there. Michigan, I could see them getting there, definitely. What your thoughts, Christian? I want to hear yours, actually. I want to kick it right back to you real quick.
I could definitely see it. As far as Michigan making it there, the Alabama part there is wild.
I could see an LSU or somebody, or maybe Georgia, somebody there.
It's a little wild to me there on that part of it.
A lot of people are high on Bama, bro. We've taken a lot of slack for that too, by the way.
I know we have, but to me, I look at this, I could see Michigan making it there. That to me, that's not necessarily a hot take, or that's not very controversial. I think this one, though, for me, is a little controversial, and that's Ohio State versus Florida State, right?
Yeah.
And this is a non-playoff game, by the way.
Yeah, and that here's I want to ask you a question, Christian. Mm-hmm. If let's say Michigan wins the Big Ten, right, and they make the playoff, let's say they go undefeated hypothetically, which is a possibility for Michigan this year.
Yep.
And Ohio State loses one game this year and they lose to Michigan. Let's say it's closer than the last 2 years. Let's say it goes down to the wire, overtime, they lose by a field goal, Michigan wins. Would this still surprise you making the Orange Bowl at 11-1? Or what's your thoughts on this?
That wouldn't surprise me at 11-1, only because, you got to look at, the College Football Committee, they take everything with a grain of salt, right? So if you have a team, let's say like Florida State, and I think Florida State will lose, I've said this, to LSU week 1.
Yeah, we're different on this one, but yeah.
But if Florida State week 1, they lose to LSU, let's just say, right? They go the rest of the season, they win the rest of the season out, they look dominant, they do what they're supposed to do. The committee's going to reward them for that. Right? Let's say Ohio State, again, they got to get their quarterback situation figured out. They kind of struggle in some games, but they end up, going into that Michigan game undefeated, and they lose the game to Michigan. As a College Football Committee at the end of the year, who do you go with? Do you go with Ohio State, who lost to Michigan, or do you go with Florida State, who lost to LSU week 1?
Okay, this is why I've struggled with my preseason rankings, and basically the last 3 or 4 teams in for that last playoff spot for me personally. Now, guys, this is my predictions. Okay, I don't want to get torn up in the comments here, but feel free in the comments to tell me what a dipshit that I am. I have a tough time between Ohio State, LSU, and who's the other one? I could throw who the hell is the other team that I'm thinking of? Maybe Texas if they end up going 11-1. Here's my problem. To answer your question, though, Christian, is how do you break down these one-loss teams? Because it could come down to, let's say Georgia runs the table, let's say Michigan runs the table. I'm very high on Florida State, so I'll get that out there. I know I caught a lot of flack for that. I also have a lot of Florida State fans apparently now like me. That's cool. But my thing is, a one-loss LSU team or a one-loss Ohio State team. How do they decide that? How would you decide that? Let's say Florida State and Michigan are both undefeated. Christian, who do you give the nod to for that 4th spot? And here's the other team I just forgot to mention. Let's go USC. Let's throw them in there because it's very possible they could go 11-1 this year, possibly run the table in that Pac-12. They got the most talent overall in that conference. Maybe finally Lincoln Riley pulls his head out of his ass and gets it done over there and does something, especially on the defensive side of the ball. How do you do that? Let's say a one-loss USC team, one-loss Ohio State team, Christian, and a one-loss LSU team.
Chris, they're probably going to look at strength of schedule.
Exactly.
They'll probably look at that and see who's the strength of schedule. Honestly, would I be surprised if it came out, next year when they go to an expanded playoff that they just flip the coin to decide these who gets in? I wouldn't. I've been kind of disappointed with some of the matchups that the committee has kind of picked. Last year, I wanted to see, obviously, Michigan, Ohio State. I wanted to see Georgia, TCU. That was kind of the way I would have probably seeded that.
Exactly.
But hey, the committee wanted to do it the way they wanted to do it. So,
you still didn't answer my question. You think it would come down to probably to an SEC school like LSU? Because the SEC, we know, guys, I hate to say it, but they're the best conference in America. It's not even really close as far as teams down there in talent. I mean, would LSU get the nod over Ohio State then, Christian, if it played out in my scenario, for example?
Well, I think it would just depend on who they beat. Like, if LSU goes in and they beat again, we talk about strength of schedule. If they're 11-1 and they've beaten Alabama, who is probably going to be a top 10 team at that point.
Yeah.
They go in and they beat Tennessee. They beat some of these teams that are top 10, top 15 teams, top 5 teams even.
Right.
Yeah, I would give them the nod there. I mean, Ohio State's going to play a couple of top 25 teams.
But they play 2 top 10, though, Penn State, Michigan, who we just mentioned.
They do. They absolutely do. So I think you look at that. Hey, who won?
Wisconsin as well.
As Wisconsin, there you go, right? So it's not just top 25. Let me take that back a little bit. So they're both going to play some really tough teams.
That's a tough one.
When you look at a snapshot, and this is what we kind of talk about, right? I think when we were doing a Florida State take a while back, we were talking about Florida State, what was it? Mike Norvell, his wins against the top 25, he only had like 1 or 2 wins, and people wanted to debate us. And it's like, look, you have to take a snapshot of when they play them, not at the end of the year. Teams get better or worse throughout the season.
100%.
So when you're going to play them and they're ranked inside of the top 25, or in this case, Ohio State or LSU or Penn State or whoever you want to put in this context, even Florida State, whenever you go to play these teams on your schedule, where are they ranked at? Are you playing a top 5 team? And then as the season progresses, do they really look like a top 5 team?
Well,
right. If it's week 1 and Florida State loses to LSU and then LSU doesn't win another game the rest of the year, but they were a top 5 team at that point, well, you can't really make the argument that they were really, a top 5 team.
Right. And that's what I wanted to throw in there, Christian. You just touched on it. It was a point that I really wanted to make here with the audience. And I want you guys to comment down below, by the way. I think this LSU Florida State game, week 1, by the way, I think this game is going to have huge implications on the playoffs at the end of the year. I think those 2 teams, in my opinion, are definitely 2 of the top 6 teams probably in the country. In my heart, I think that game is going to be crazy. You know what I mean? Just the implications at the end of the year when it goes to decide, is LSU one of those schools that we maybe potentially do put in the playoffs, Christian, and or a Florida State if they win or lose, but run the table, beat a Clemson, and and dominate the ACC after that. So yeah, this is huge, man. I mean, this year is kind of crazy. That's why I said that's why I can't wait for the season to start.
Chris, getting into the next one, the Peach Bowl, Penn State versus LSU. Thoughts?
Oh my God, man, that's you got the 3rd best team. Predominantly is what everybody's thinking. Penn State's going to be probably this year. LSU, I have probably finishing higher in that. You could flop that with Florida State, like I just mentioned a second ago. Yeah. Could this happen though? It could happen. That's a funny thing though. This isn't a playoff game, so I don't know. That one's a little surprising to me as well. I'd like to actually see their actual playoff teams in. You know what I mean? Like who did they picked? Or at least give me a top 25 of where they got them finishing. What about you, Christian?
No, I mean, this is if they were to finish, if LSU finishes with 2 losses, which they could. I mean, again, I could see them like as a floor for LSU this year with 2 or 3 losses, but as a ceiling, like I said, I think more realistically, they got a shot to win the SEC this year. Mm-hmm. You go back and you look at Penn State. I mean, Penn State again. We just touched on them. We gave them a trophy, for God's sakes. We gave them the participation trophy of the week.
Yeah,
but you look at Penn State. In all seriousness, here. Penn State is a 2-loss team, or maybe hell, even a 1-loss team. Maybe they play in the Peach Bowl against LSU, right?
No, I mean, it's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility within the realm of possibilities.
Scrolling down here, the Citrus Bowl, right? It's going to be Wisconsin versus Tennessee. Chris, I don't see this one. I really don't.
I do. Why? I guess my question to you, Christian, I want to argue about this a little bit on air. Why do you not see this happening? I know you're very big on Tennessee. The participation trophy in my mind came down to Penn State or Wisconsin this week, fans.
Yeah.
I know you're a little bit down on Wisconsin. We've had this argument many a times. Why, though? Enlighten me on why you don't see this happening at all.
To me, like I said, I just look at it and I say, is Tennessee going to probably be a 3-loss team this year? Or Wisconsin? Is Wisconsin? Wisconsin could be a 3-loss team.
I think they both are.
I don't know. Like I said, I mean, Tennessee, I'm really high on them. I could see that they could have 2 or 3 losses with the departure of Hendon Hooker and some other talent. They've got a lot of talent that they're putting back in there, so that I'm okay with that. But Wisconsin, man, I mean, their defense will be all right. You'll have to see what Fickle does on that defensive side of the ball. I think that they'll be okay on the defensive side of the ball. It's really the offense, man. Can you open it up and be explosive enough? Right? You look at everybody else in that conference or in that division of Big Ten play that they're going to play. They're going to play some high-profile offenses. They're going to have to put some points on the board, and that's been their problem in years past. When they get in these big matchups against Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, some of these teams, they're not able to keep pace with them, dude. And if I see the quarterback I saw in spring in there, and I'm not trying to keep hype. I'm not trying to keep hyping up the spring here. I'm just saying, what elite quarterback do you know that threw 4 interceptions in a spring game?
God, man, I've never seen a guy weep and cry and moan about a quarterback throwing 4 interceptions more in a spring game, let alone half a practice, than you. I personally disagree with you quite a bit on this. Wisconsin doesn't have to play Michigan. Wisconsin doesn't have to play Penn State. A lot of the teams that they're going to be playing, Christian, is the Illinois, the Minnesotas. They do have Ohio State. I chalked it up as a loss, my man. And Nebraska. Nebraska isn't a world beater. Neither is Minnesota on offense. And sure as shit, Illinois is not going to put up 40-some points a game. And now you're writing down something, because it sounds like we got a bet on the line this year about Wisconsin.
We got a bet alert coming in here.
That was the worst siren I've ever heard, but go ahead.
Wait, we don't have the budget yet for like real sirens, so I just got to fill in here. Yeah, Chris, right. Let's just go ahead and put this into a bet here. Wisconsin, if they... So you're saying, basically, to make it to the Citrus Bowl and to play a team like Tennessee, which would probably be the... Okay, so you're saying at most they're going to have 3 losses. At most.
Correct.
All right. I think they have more than that. Again, I've got a gut feeling I'm going to go with it. If Wisconsin has...
Ooh, this is the number.
If Wisconsin has...
7 wins.
No, I'm not going to say it. If Wisconsin has more than 3 losses...
Whoa! Give me 4.
No, I'm not giving you 4. So we just staked our claims on this, right? This is assuming that to make it to this bowl, right? You're probably going to have a 3-loss team right there, right?
Listen here. What Georgia fan? You don't know nothing about Big Ten football. What are you talking about? You just made it sound like Wisconsin because this kid threw 4 picks in a preseason, goddamn glorified spring game that they're going 6-6 this year. Now you want to? Oh no, they got to win 9 games, Chris, for you to win this bet. Come on, man. Go look
up Fickle's coaching record, right? Go look up his record on Wikipedia. In his first year taking over programs. Go look at it at Ohio State. Go look at it at Cincinnati. History's on my side, my friend. So I'll tell you what. Wisconsin has.
Give me 9.
If Wisconsin has more than 3 losses this year, Chris, I'll come over and do your yard work for a week.
Dude, you don't know nothing about getting outside. We saw how that happened a couple weeks ago. You ain't about that life.
I'm a burn victim, Chris, and to make fun of my disability, shame on you, sir.
Well, I'm going to make fun of your mental disability here right now as well. All right, give me 9 and 3. What's the bet? What if you win? I got to go over and do your yard work in Omaha?
I would say yes. I mean, if I got to drive to wherever the hell you are, you know what I mean. Then you got to come drive out here and do my yard work for a week.
Deal. Firm handshakes, virtual handshake, deal. You're very low on Wisconsin, man. No wonder why the Wisconsin fans I saw were tearing up our chat because you've been hammering on them the entire time. That's on you.
Well,
all right.
Chris, I'll let you break the next one down here. It looks like that's going to be the Las Vegas Bowl.
I don't see this happening. I have Oregon finishing second or at least third in the Pac-12 this year. Iowa, I am not near as high on. I don't see that one happen either. I'm a little surprised that would even be a bowl game. I'm not saying that's not out of the realm of possibilities, no. But I don't even put that one close. That means Oregon's got to go. In my book, like, would have to go like 7-5 or 8-4. I don't see that happening with Oregon this year.
No, I don't either. I think it's. I could see the Iowa thing. I could see that, but Oregon, no. I don't see them losing that many games.
No, not with Bo Nix.
I'm out on that one. Music City Bowl here, right? Minnesota versus Arkansas.
Oh man, that means. I'm just spitballing this off the top of my head here. That means Minnesota would at least have to go probably 7-5. That's a possibility for Minnesota this year. I know a lot of people in Nebraska think that Minnesota is just garbage. I actually think they're tough to play, especially when they're at home. So Arkansas, could they go 7-5 the SEC this year with all the talent they're returning? That's a possibility. That game actually doesn't surprise me as much now that I keep looking at it. That could happen. I would personally throw like an Illinois in there over Minnesota, but it's a possibility. Christian, what's your thoughts on that one?
Absolutely not. I know you're a little higher on Minnesota than I am. Arkansas being 7-5. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that.
For them, man. They got a brutal schedule.
I know I'm a little higher on Arkansas than that, but that's just me. I don't think Minnesota is going to be that good. I think that they're a fringe bowl team, right? Okay. As we kind of keep going down the list here, this is obviously saying, win-loss projections is what Athlon Sports is kind of calling here, right? The one you're and most of our audience is probably going to care about here, Chris, Nebraska versus Louisville in the Pinstripe Bowl.
Well, this would almost mean to me, because I have Louisville going 7-5 this year. They have a chance at 8-4 with the schedule at place. Does Nebraska get to 8 wins this year? If they did, I'd be ecstatic. Can they get 7 this year? That's kind of where I have them pegged at. Yeah, I could see this happening. Louisville is not a pushover team this year. They return a lot of people too. So, like, if this were to play out, I would be happy to make this bowl game. I know Nebraska fans, there's that delusional half a fan base over here that thinks we're winning 9 or 10 games this year. God, I hope they're right. Christian, your thoughts on this one?
No, I'm a lot higher on Nebraska.
You are.
I really am. I'm much higher on Nebraska. Louisville can do some things too. I mean, like I said, I think this would be a great first year, for a first-year coach over there. I think it's Jeff Brom, if I'm not mistaken, who's their coach.
Yep.
I don't see this one. This one's a little asinine to me.
Bring me to that next one.
Maryland versus Texas Tech.
Not a freaking chance in hell. If I'm probably the highest on any team this year. It's Texas Tech. I think they're going 9-3.
Yeah.
I think they're beating Oregon week 2. I put some money on it. Woo! Write that one down, baby. I like Texas Tech. I do. I think they're going to be tough this year. Maryland, we just talked about them last pod for just a little bit, touching on them or whatever. Could I see them going 6-6 this year? Somewhere in there. But that almost tells me, even if they did get 7 wins this year, you're playing Texas Tech at 7-5. That would be a huge letdown for Texas Tech, man. I think a lot of polls have them in the top 25 as well this year. So I don't see that game ever coming to fruition.
I actually do.
Oh, my God. Here we go.
No, listen to me. Listen to me for a second here, okay?
I've been listening to you for the last 4 months.
You're damn right. You're going to keep listening because you're learning some stuff over there, right? I'm learning you something.
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
You son of a buck. Listen, Maryland and Texas Tech, they're kind of similar teams, right? They've got a little something there. They've got good coaches. To me, I like their coaching staff there, but they're not at that level yet. We look at the upper echelons of different conferences, right? Even if you look at the Big 12, it goes Texas, you've got TCU, Baylor, Oklahoma, you've got some fringe teams that kind of play off of that. You've got some new teams coming into the right. I think Texas Tech is a middle of the pack team. I could see that. Then you go to the Big Ten. We're looking at the Big Ten now. Maryland, right? Where is Maryland at? We kind of touched on them. Do I think Maryland's going to shock everybody this year and compete for a Big Ten title? No. But do I think Maryland can kind of go through their schedule? And they do have a very favorable schedule in the first half of it. Then it kind of starts to get really, really tough on the back half. Maryland's got a shot to be a 6-7 win team this year. I know we touched on that, on last episode. Maryland, they're a middle of the pack Big Ten team. So to me, I think this kind of makes a lot more sense to me than it probably does to you, Chris.
Yeah, I could see Maryland doing that. I Texas Tech, I think, finishes in the top 3 or 4 of the Big 12 this year. So. Moving on, though, we'll drop down. What we got, like 1 or 2 left here? See, this one surprises the shit out of me.
This one surprises the hell out of me as well, Chris. Quick Lane Bowl, Illinois versus Eastern Michigan. No way in hell Illinois is going to be that way. Illinois
that's barely bowl eligible.
This is a 5 or 6 win team that we're talking about right here. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're going to put them up against Eastern Michigan? No way. Like you said earlier, I think probably more realistically, you could plug and play Illinois in against, I would say Arkansas, or hell, even Oregon if they shoot the moon.
Yep. No, I agree 100%. When I saw this today, I was like, wow, that's the Illinois one's probably the most shocking, other than the Texas Tech one for me. So, no, I don't see that happening. But hey, Athlon Sports, maybe they know what the hell they're talking about over there, and I might look like a total stooge over here, like normal. So, I guess time will tell, Christian.